Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Xray Summer 25 Product Releases. My name is Tony Slava, and today I'm joined by Chris and Bernardo from our product team. We're very excited to walk you through the latest updates in Xray, including some really powerful new AI capabilities that we think will change the way your teams approach testing. These latest releases have been all about speed, control, and security, helping QA teams move faster without sacrificing trust or quality. So let's dive in. Today, we're going to cover first an introduction into Sembi IQ, the engine that powers Xray's new AI capabilities. Then we're going to go into some demos of the AI capabilities that we have from Chris, our product manager. Next, we're going to walk you through the brand new reporting center, which consolidates all of your reporting needs in one place. Then we're going to highlight some additional features and enhancements that we've shipped this summer. After that, we're going to talk about the new Xray Cloud app additions and what that means for flexibility across teams of different sizes. Finally, we're going to wrap up with a look at what's coming next before opening it up to Q&A. So feel free to add your questions in the Q&A panel, and we'll try to get your questions answered at the end. So let's start with AI. There's no shortage of AI solutions out there, but not all of them are designed with testers in mind. At Xray, we believe that AI should assist and not replace. That's why Xray's AI capabilities are powered by Sembi IQ. Sembi's AI platform is specifically created for software testing and security. And what does this make a difference? First, it's contextual and explainable, designed to make sense for QA workflows and not just generic AI text generation. Secondly, it's privacy first, so all of your data is encrypted and never stored or never used to train the model. And thirdly, it keeps testers firmly in control so that the AI suggests, but then you review, refine, and decide what moves forward. So rather than replacing testers, Xray's AI capabilities help teams move faster while maintaining accuracy, coverage, and alignment with business intent. So let's take a look at one of the most exciting new AI capabilities, which is AI test case generation. With this feature, you're now going to be able to turn written requirements into structured test cases in just seconds. But here's what makes Xray unique. Instead of generating the full test cases right away, we do introduce a review, edit, and select step. That means that the AI generates the test titles and descriptions, and then you decide which ones to keep, adjust, or discard. Only then do you move forward to generate the full structured tests in manual or Cucumber format, depending on your workflow. And the results from our beta program have been very positive so far. So far, 75% of the testers said that this feature was easy to use, 80% reported that it covered important requirements and created useful edge cases, and 60% said it saved them significant time compared to writing tests manually. One of our enterprise customers also told us that the AI test case generation produced a comprehensive and appropriate set of tests with accurate steps, that it was impressive. And as you can see, the benefits are clear. You're going to be able to reduce manual effort and free up testers to focus on the actual testing. You're going to accelerate test creation while also reducing the risk of missing critical scenarios. And as well, you are going to get more consistent and relevant test outputs. Finally, and not least importantly, you're going to always have the human-in-the-loop control, where testers are always making the last decision. And this is where Xray really stands out from other black box AI solutions. Instead of generating noise or irrelevant cases, our approach, powered by Sembi IQ, really ensures faster, smarter, and more reliable test design, all while keeping the human expertise at the center. So let's move on and see what other innovations we have in store. And this is AI test model generation, exclusively available in Xray Advanced and Enterprise. And with this capability, you're able to take requirements and automatically create visual test models of your system. And these models give you a much deeper insight into system behavior and help you see the relationship between requirements that aren't always obvious from text alone. And with these models, you are going to be able to identify gaps in requirements earlier before they can turn into costly defects, expand coverage with confidence, and visualize how your testing maps back to system functionality. This makes it much easier to ensure that your testing is both comprehensive and aligned with what your system actually needs to deliver. And next up, we're going to have Chris from the product team show you a demo of both of these features in action. Chris, over to you.
Hello everyone, my name is Chris Carice. I'm one of the product managers here at Xray, and I'm happy to give you a quick demo of Xray's first two AI features. Starting with AI test case generation, you'll notice this feature has multiple entry points throughout the UI, most notably here on the test repository. Also, within any drop-down menu to create tests, there will now be an option to create tests with AI, designated by the AI star. No matter where you enter the feature from, you'll end up in the same place, which is this new pop-up modal. You'll have three drop-down menus here, as well as a text box. The first one is to select what type of tests you'd like to create. Xray supports both manual and Cucumber tests, as well as any custom test type you have in your Jira instance, as long as they're of type steps or Gherkin. The second dropdown is going to be optional, and you can link any precondition you'd wish if you'd like these tests to be associated with certain precondition from your Jira instance. And similarly, the third dropdown is going to be to link any coverable issues. We'll leave this one blank for now as it is optional, and we'll move to the last, which is the text box. This is where you're going to provide information and context to the LLM. So I've inserted a sample prompt. This is going to be to create an online checkout feature. Once you have these information filled out, you can click the Generate Test Cases button, and this will be the first time you're sending information to the LLM. We have a two-step process here at Xray. The first step is going to give the LLM information about your requirements, and it's going to give back to you what it thinks are the necessary tests to cover those requirements. It will generate up to 60 tests at a time, but it will generate the minimum amount that it thinks is necessary to cover your requirements sufficiently. This time it generated 28 tests for me. Additionally, it will group these tests into topics. So the first topic it has here is core functional paths. The second topic it has is edge cases, input validation, and so on. So you can expand these down, and you can see all the tests within each topic. Additionally, you can preview the summary and description of each of these tests. If you'd like to make any edits, you can edit them at this stage before we send them back to the LLM a second time. If there's any tests that you think are unnecessary or you already have created in your test repository, you can uncheck them here and they won't be taken to the next step. The last thing you can do on this page is to select what folder within the test repository these tests will be sent to. The default would be the root folder, but if you'd like to send them to any folder specifically, you can select them here. So we can go ahead and select root. And lastly, there's an option to create subfolders within the destination folder based on the topic suggested by the LLM. So if you'd like these to be grouped into subfolders based on these topics, simple checkbox there that you can click before proceeding to the next step. Once you've reviewed all these tests, determined which ones you'd like to take to the next step, you're going to go ahead and click Review and Edit. This is the second time that we're sending information to the LLM, and now the LLM is actually going to generate all of the details and fields for the test necessary. So we're keeping the human touch within this process the entire way through. So we can go ahead and click into each of the tests we saw on the last page, and now we'll be able to see all of the details and all the fields it's going to fill in for us. Again, any summary, description, you can make edits at this stage if you'd like to change anything, make sure everything looks good. Most importantly, you can go to the steps, make sure all of the steps are filled out to your liking. Action, data, expected result, and comments. Anything here you can click and edit as needed. You can also reorder the steps if necessary. And lastly is the configure fields, where you have additional fields that you can configure before these are created as regular tests within your Jira instance. If you want to increase or decrease the priority, you can do that. Select a parent or any labels. We do provide the default label of AI, which you can remove if you wish, but it is a great way to keep track of which tests are created by AI versus manually. So after you've reviewed each of these tests and determined that you'd like to create them, or if not, you can uncheck them, you're going to click the Create Test Cases button. And now these test cases, with all the data and fields that you just saw and edited and reviewed, are going to be created as regular Jira work items, just like any other tests you have in your instance. And you'll be able to access them, use them, edit them, all the same as you have before. One more thing I'd like to highlight about this feature is the entry point from a coverable issue. So this is a sample user story where I have the exact same prompt we just put into the AI feature previously. And you'll notice within the test coverage panel, there is again an entry point to the AI feature. So we can go ahead and click this. And one key difference is the linked coverable issue will be pre-filled with the user story that we entered from. So this will automatically be filled for us. And for this run through, we can select the cucumber test type just to see the difference. Another important feature is that now that we have the prompt within this coverable issue, we don't need to provide as much context in this test requirements box, but it is necessary to provide something. So we can provide a simple command like create test cases with a link to coverable issues, and send this to the LLM as is. Now, similarly, we're going to see the tests come back on the first step, what the LLM thinks is necessary to cover these requirements. We can go ahead and click review and edit, assume that we went through all those, they all looked good. And now just to show you the difference, instead of steps, you have scenario here where you have the gherkin scenario. Again, you can go in, make any edits or changes to these if they're not to your liking, accept them, review all the tests, make sure they look good, go ahead and create the test cases. The last benefit here is after these test cases are created, since they had that linked coverable issue filled out, you will see that if we refresh the page on this story, all of the tests that were just created are already linked in Jira as covered by these tests. And with that, we'll move on to the demo for AI test model generation, which is an extension of Xray's existing test case designer feature. Starting at Xray Test Case Designer's homepage, let's take a look at building a new test model and leveraging the feature's new AI-powered capabilities. So we'll build a new test model and we'll name it Monopoly and click Create. As you'll see here, there's a new entry point for the AI features, and the AI-powered feature is going to be the most crucial step in building your test model. That's generating your parameters. So we can click the AI-powered feature here, and it'll give us a pop-up that says it needs the AI guidance, which we haven't set yet. So we'll provide it the AI guidance it needs. On this page, you can insert a small description on the left-hand side to cover your testing goals, as well as a larger, more detailed file upload. So on the left-hand side, we're going to put in a short prompt describing the rules of Monopoly and how we want the test model to create scenarios for us. And on the right-hand side, we're going to browse for a file and upload a PDF that I have for the rules of Monopoly. We can save both sides and confirm once this is ready. Now we're ready to use the AI guidance, and we can click Generate Parameters. What the AI is doing now is it's going through the file we provided along with the description, and it's going to automatically for us suggest the parameters that will go into creating the test model, which is the most crucial and most time-consuming step to using the Test Case Designer feature. So the AI will supercharge the feature essentially. What it spits out is a list of features, of parameters and their values. So we can scroll over to see all the values, and we can accept or reject each of these either one at a time or in bulk at the bottom, accept and reject all. So we can accept one at a time, we can reject any that we think we don't need, we can accept or reject specific values as well. Say we don't want it to allow us to play with 6, we can remove that as a possible value to the first parameter for player count. So let's say we like the rest of these, we can click accept all, and we have the start to our test model parameters. A couple more things we can do with the AI here is if we want to generate additional parameters, if there looks like there's missed any, we can click here and supply a little more context to the LLM. Say we want to focus on testing scenarios specifically for getting out of jail, add in that prompt and click generate parameters. And again, it's going to go back, review the files that we've provided it, and see what else it can give us in terms of that specifically. So it came up with jail release method, fine amount doubles, so on and so forth. Maybe we don't need this one. We can select and choose which we want to keep, and then choose to accept or reject all of the ones that are generated. Another thing we can do is if we want more values for a specific parameter, say we know there should be more ways to get out of jail, we can click to suggest more parameter values. And the AI is going to take a second look at this specific parameter and decide if it needs to add more ways to get out of jail. So it offered us 4 more. Say we like, trade with another player, definitely good. You can always trade for a get out of jail free card. We're going to accept that one. Maybe not the others. Role a specific number, auction release, completed task. So we got one new one out of that. The last thing we can do with AI that's going to be new here is going to generate a new parameter. So say there's a parameter that we think is missing, but we're not completely sure what it is. We can stick with the gel topic and say, gel status. And then we can have the LLM generate parameter variations for us and see what it comes up with here. So from this keyword, it's going to take a look at the files we provided, the gel status, and give us a bunch of parameters it thinks. We can accept or reject them all one at a time or in bulk. See if we accept them all and click create. And they can't be duplicates. We'll just create that as gel status 2. So those are the AI additions to the existing test case designer feature.
Thanks, Chris and Tony, for the great showcase. It's really exciting to see how Xray users will be able to supercharge their testing experience with AI. Hello everyone, I'm Bernardo Coutinho, Product Manager here at Xray, and today I'll showcase you the latest improvements we've introduced focused on reporting, visibility, and administration. Starting with Reporting Center. So Reporting Center is a centralized hub where testers and Xray users can find all their reports in one place. Instead of jumping between different menus, everything is now streamlined, making reporting faster and easier to adopt as part of your daily workflows. You'll be able to find the Reporting Center in your top navigation, similar to where you find the testing board or test case designer. And within this new page, you'll be able to see a showcase of each report on its preview to simplify adoption and explain the purpose of it. Next, we have the defect traceability report. This new report flips the perspective. It starts from defects and shows how they trace back to requirements. This helps teams quickly understand the impact of bugs on business needs and coverage. To make things clearer, we also renamed the original traceability report to requirement traceability report, so you can easily distinguish between the two views. On this new report, you'll be able to filter defects between all or connected defects, so connected defects to any requirements, or defects that are not connected to any kind of requirements. You'll also be able to filter by the priority of your defect or bug work item, and to filter, as usual, between the project scope that you want. On the following slide, we have the updated test executions list report. This brings a more advanced view, similar to what our data center customers have enjoyed. It also allows you to analyze execution metrics across multiple testing cycles, compare progress, and break things down by test type and statuses. This makes it easier to identify trends and track the health of your testing processes over time. Here, on the next slide, we enhance the test execution list report even further, and now it supports iteration level results for parameterized tests. That means if you're running the same test with different datasets, you can see exactly how each iteration performed. This gives you a much more accurate and detailed view of testing outcomes, especially for teams relying on parameterized testing flows. So we'll be able to expand all the iterations and see how much each test has. And finally, on this slide, we've made status management much more flexible. Admins can now configure test statuses and test step statuses globally, but assign them only to the projects where they're needed. They can also activate or deactivate statuses per project, reducing clutter and keeping things clean. We've aligned this with Jira's workflow status management, so it feels familiar and consistent for users. That's a quick overview of the new features. And now let's switch over to a demo so you can see these updates in action. Starting with the reporting center, there's multiple ways for you to access the new feature. You can do it both through your project navigation, similar to where we have the testing board. You can go here to the More section and drag and drop Reporting Center into the tab, which you should do. Or you can also use the Apps drawer with the new Jira navigation. It's located here to the left. You can expand Xray and see the Reporting Center right here. You can use any of the two. It's the same. And you'll be presented with your new full-fledged dedicated reporting section that will list all the reports that Xray has, and you'll be able to see a preview of them and the scope of each report. So this allows you to understand which reports are traceability focused, which ones are coverage focused, and which ones are more inventory. Reports like the test execution list that we showcase on the slides and will also be covered within the scope of this demo. And you can also start any of them because you might not use all of the reports. You might just need test coverage and requirement traceability, and therefore you have the starred tab, which is a lot easier for you to access and to go straight forward to the reports you use the most. Now, if we go into the test execution list report, like we discussed on the slides, this report suffered a couple of changes now. It's a lot more powerful. So you do have the expandable version here. We'll cover it in a bit, but if you press generate report, you are presented with the key to the test execution, the summary of the test execution itself, any Jira field or Xray custom field that you want can be also showcased here on the column. So this is fully configurable, and you can have, imagine if you need to see story points for a test execution, you can have them here and you can drag and drop them and organize this to your liking. But you have details like the test environment, the count of tests inside a test execution, the test plan the test execution is linked to, if it is, and the status of the tests inside this execution, plus the amount of known defects. Now, if we want to see the expanded version, which has even more data and supports parameterized testing, you can toggle that on and press generate report. And Xray will show you a lot more details. So first, you can see immediately the test types column. So this shows you inside a test execution how much tests are manual, cucumber, generic, or other, because you can have custom test types, what's the progress, the success rate, elapsed time, and any linked defects. Now, if we want to see the parameterization or the iterations of each test, you can also go here to the columns and add the iterations in parameters column, which will now showcase that, for example, in the store page navigation and usability test execution, we have 11 iterations. So if we expand, you can see that first, inside this execution, you have all of these tests. And then inside each of these tests, you can see that for the first one and the third one, you have 5 iterations. So if you open the iterations, you can now see that iteration 1 is using Maestro and MasterCard as dataset parameter. Iteration number 2 is based on Visa and Chrome. Iteration 3 is using American Express and Mozilla Firefox, and all of them have their own status. So that it's a lot easier for you to understand the outcomes of your parameterized tests. If you press it, you'll be redirected to the testing board, and Xray will load the actual test run for you, where you have all the iterations inside and where you can see all the steps and the outcomes of the testing activities that you just performed. So this is mainly it for the test executions list. Again, it's a big change from what we had previously. For the ones that are comfortable and acquainted to the scope of the test execution report in data center, the cloud version is now much more in pair to what we have, and that way a lot more powerful for you to use in your day-to-day activities. Now, if we move into the defect traceability report, another report that we also discussed and showcased, first it's important for us to just cover quickly what is a defect within Xray. So a defect is any Jira work item that you want to consider as a defect. By default, it can be bug, but you can have custom work items that you want to consider defects, and those will be showcased together with the outcomes of your test executions, and they will be used to do the calculations with requirement traceability report and defect traceability report. For the defect one, which is the new one that we discussed, here's an example of that report. So once again, you have the option to filter and to select which projects you want to see. You might want to filter through assignee or through component, resolution. Again, you have a lot of options, but you can also filter by the way the defect exists. So you might want to see all defects in your project or in your projects, or only defects that are connected to requirements. So defects that are linked to a user story or to an epic, or defects that aren't connected to anything, because it might be important for you just to see, holistically speaking, which defect you have that are currently just waiting for someone to pinpoint what part of your project they are affecting, which scope do they need to be tested against, so on and so forth. And you can also do a quick filter through the defect priority. So you might want to see just the highest priority defects, and we don't have any. We might want to see just the low ones, or we might just want to see the full page. In this scenario, you can see the defect XSP4/28 that is linked to a test execution with a test run inside it. You can press the view details to be redirected to the test run. You can see immediately that this given test run is currently marked as failed, and it's linked to this test and to this user story. So as we discussed, you can have full traceability, almost like a defect story, telling you when the defect happened and what is it affecting in your project for the ones that are connected. Again, for the ones that are not connected, is more giving you tools to understand where you need to focus your defects and bugs investigation. Jumping into Usage Monitor. So the Usage Monitor is an admin tool that needs to be accessed by admins into your Manage Apps section, and then under Xray, you should be able to see the Usage Monitor. This is the experience in a first run. So again, the Usage Monitor will do a big calculation for you to check all your Xray entities, how are they being covered, try to understand if it sees or detects any anti-patterns. And this is something that you can run once per day. Okay, usually it will take a little bit, but the outcome of it will be a table with all your entities counts and with different data points that you'll be able to explore and to guide your teams into improving and foster adoption of Xray, or into actually seeing anti-patterns that can be worked upon by any team member. So again, first you have a count of entities, and it can go from either the amount of custom test statuses that you have to the amount of manual tests versus Cucumber or generic tests. This can be used, for instance, as an automation adoption measurement, because imagine you can have a given threshold for a project, and the usage monitor might allow you to see, okay, I have a threshold of 20% manual tests, 80% generic or Cucumber based, and you can see those numbers here and make sure the math is adding up correctly. Then you have a count of all the Xray issue type based entities, so tests, preconditions, test executions, dynamic test plans. Since this is an Xray Enterprise only feature, you can also understand here if the uniqueness of Xray Enterprise is being used or not. And then a top 5 count for projects with most requirements without tests. So this should be in theory all the projects or the top 5 projects that you have that you have less test coverage. And then again, you can also see the project with more test coverage, projects with most tests, with most manual tests, or with most generic. So this is also a good example for you to understand which ones, which projects within your organization are focusing more or using more automation, and therefore on those projects you might need to do some extra rounds of manual exploratory testing to make sure that the automation results are going as intended. Or you can also try to see, for instance, from all of your projects, which ones are using more data sets iterations, like it was showcased on the test execution list report. Therefore, understanding parameterized test adoption, if you have all the teams using this approach to reduce the amount of tests they need to generate, and to see if they're leveraging the parameterized solutions that Xray provides, and so on and so forth. Then you have counts for tests. So again, immediately you have a count for tests that are created using Test Case Designer. Another Xray Enterprise feature that is important for you to see if it's actually being used by your users or not. And then manual tests with most steps. So this should be, in theory, the more complex manual test scenarios that your testers are executing, or tests that are being reused the most. So tests that are in the most test plans or most test sets are being used a lot more in test executions versus other tests, or even tests with most versions. So tests that are currently linked to test case versioning, therefore also Xray Enterprise adoption measurement. You can also have account for preconditions, for test sets, for test executions, for test plans itself. It's always going back to the same, which is giving you tools to understand adoption and being able to detect patterns to improve the outcome of the testing activities of your team members. And then anti-patterns. So anti-patterns are based on our experience of Xray usage, common behaviors that usually indicate that Xray is not being used to its fullest. This means that, for instance, if you have a lot of resolved requirements without tests, that even though you're using a test management solution, you're not considering test as the definition of done for a requirement for a user story. And the same can be said for manual tests without steps. So in theory, it's awkward that you're using manual test types without any steps, so without any definition of the testing activities the tester needs to perform. Likewise, you can have manual tests with too many steps, so with a really big amount of steps that might indicate that you're trying to do everything into a single test, where in theory you should split it according to what actually needs to be tested, and then test executions without test runs, or tests without execution. So should be tests that are actually not being used anymore that you can clear up. Additionally, on the top, you can also do a check per project instead of seeing a global vision of the status of your Jira site. So if you go to the project tab, you can select up to 5 projects and see project related entities to streamline the analysis that you are performing. You can have on the view settings and I'll showcase you all items expanded or all collapsed to improve the digest of the data. And you can also press the export through a CSV where you can choose the delimiter, and the visible data will be showcased to you in a CSV file that you can then use on an Excel or anything that you want to create some kind of reporting on top of this. Last but not least, let's just go over quickly the custom test statuses and custom test step statuses. So again, back to a Jira site. If you go into the manage apps, again, admin only, you are able to configure custom test statuses and custom test step statuses. So these will be the statuses of your coverage. And again, these will be given by the outcome of your testing activities. We can consider ones like blocked, um, or we can also have ones that are, for instance, skipped, that we might want to say, okay, this test is no longer needed, it was skipped, and the same can be done to the step itself. So this one will be marked as not run, and we can say that this status is final. So this status can be then given to a test execution with a lot of tests inside, or to a test plan with a lot of tests inside. And then you have the option to either enable this for all projects, or to select project by project which projects you want to see this. So for now, let's select only this sample project 4, and let's press add. Again, you have here the new status. You can see which projects is enabled, so it's correct. It's only enabled for the online store number 4, and the same can be done for the test step. So for the step, let's use the skipped status, and this one, let's give it a bit of a blue color, and status on this one, let's mark it as to do, and this one let's enable for all projects. So if now I go into a test execution for a given test plan, let's just give it a refresh to see if the changes are propagated. So I'm on the correct project, number 4. I have the status here, and I have the blocked one, which is good. Let's try to actually preform the testing activities. Okay, there we go. We have a test run, we have the description. So on this first step, imagine that we no longer need to do the add one more items to the shopping cart scenario. There we go. We have the skip step. We can mark it like this, and then we can say that everything else is green. And we can mark the full test run as passed or as blocked again. And this is totally up to us. We have full control about which statuses are relevant for us, which ones are marked as final or not. If we go back to the test execution, again, this one is still marked as executing, but we can say that it was blocked because it had a skipped step. If I go into my sample project 3, and let's just go quickly into a test execution, can be this one. I have a lot of tests here, but I do not have the block step, the block statuses. So the new feature is working properly. This is relevant to specific to bigger corporations, or for companies that have a lot of uniqueness into their testing flows, and you might need specific statuses for your teams, but you might not need them for all teams, and you therefore you might not want to overcomplicate the outcomes of your testing and the reporting that you have. So using the custom test steps and custom test statuses will be the ideal solution for you. And now that we've seen the demo, let's look at what's new in how Xray is offered in the marketplace. Earlier this year, Atlassian released App Editions, allowing marketplace apps to offer multiple plans under one listing. This gives you the flexibility to choose the Xray Cloud plan that best fits your team's needs. Starting with Xray Standard, designed for smaller teams and agile starters, offering the core test management features you rely on today. Next, within App Editions tiers, Xray Advanced, a new premium tier within the same app, aimed at growing QA teams that need more than the basics. It includes new and enhanced capabilities beyond standard. And last, Xray Enterprise, now a separate app built for large-scale organizations. It provides advanced features like test case versioning, dynamic test plans, remote jobs triggers, higher feature thresholds, faster support SLAs, and direct access to a dedicated account manager. With this change, you no longer need an Xray standard license to use Xray Enterprise, making it simpler and more flexible to adopt the right edition for your needs. Please make sure you read our documentation and fully understand what this change means for you and your organization. And finally, let's take a quick look ahead on what's coming next. We've been listening closely to our customers, and our focus is on making Xray even more powerful, scalable, and intelligent. To give you a sense of direction, here are some of the key initiatives we're working on right now. Starting with Forge, we're moving more functionality into Atlassian modern platform for scalability and future growth, with the aim of having a Forge native version of Xray deployed soon. Next, performance improvements will also be on the table to keep Xray fast and reliable at scale. Additionally, AI test script generation and AI test prioritization, bringing AI deeper into test authoring and execution planning. Next, Rovo, Atlassian's AI-powered agent framework, will be making testing more proactive and intelligent, unlocked by Teamwork Graph support. With Teamwork Graph, we'll be unlocking richer context and smarter connections across your testing data within Jira Cloud Platform. And last but not least, cloud migration improvements, making it easier than ever to move projects into Xray Cloud. These initiatives are all about helping teams work smarter, move faster, and get more value out of Xray. Thank you very much for listening, and now let's join the Q&A.